What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So we are seeing more and more lies from our lawmakers. We can't get a straight answer from many of them, and the ones we do get an answer from, it's just a lie upon lie upon lie. Here's what we know. Today, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said that the date the government will officially run out of money will be October 18th or later. So this is actually good news. We got about an additional 3 days, because essentially it was going to be October 15th through November 4th. She is saying right now it's October 18th. Here's the problem. Lawmakers are so just mixed. They're struggling to come to an agreement on the government funding bill, the debt ceiling increase, or suspension. It could be one or the other. They can't figure out how to pass the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill, and they can't figure out how to get the finalized version of the $3.5 trillion bill done. Well, I'll address that in just a minute. But one thing I just want you to understand, I will be here every step of the way. I will make sure you are updated on what is actually happening. I will make sure I provide the good news as well as the bad news. I know a lot of people hate the fact that I come out and I give you the bad news, but sometimes that's all we got. That's all we have is bad news. There's not a lot of good news coming out of Congress right now. However, the House did pass a government funding bill today. That's good news, right? Well, I'll address that in just a second as well, because really, that's not the best news either. But here's what we know today. Democrats are going to continue to use all the different options they have in order to suspend the debt limit, until December 2022. They want to provide the government with funding, right? We know that. That's obviously needed, and that's needed by tomorrow at midnight. I don't know if we're going to make it there, but we'll see what happens. But right now, here's what we know. Today, Democrats in the House, they passed a bill to suspend the debt limit through December 2022, right? Great news. Well, it's not that great. Here's the reason why. It actually passed 219 to 212 in the House. That was a party line vote. Remember when I told you if Democrats lose more than 3 votes, the bill will not pass? Yeah. So it's whoever gets to that 216 number first. If it's yeses, the bill passes. If it's noes, the bill doesn't pass. It's 216. That is the number. So we will see what happens, but according to many experts, according to other lawmakers, and according to senators, this bill isn't going to pass in the Senate. But you're probably thinking, well, if it's not going to pass in the Senate, Nancy Pelosi knows this, Democrats know this, why do they keep playing this game? Here's the reason why. Democrats plan to use all their different options. They plan on, and this is in the Senate, they plan on, and they did this the other day, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer got up and simply asked, can we have a vote and just bring down the number to 50? We just need 50 votes. That is it. And all it takes is one person to object to his request, and it pretty much kills it. And then it invokes the filibuster, which is the 60 vote minimum. Well, that's exactly what happened, and that is what's going to happen every single time. It's not going to get to 60 votes. Or if he stands up and says, well, let's just bring the number down to 50 for this one-time standalone vote, it just takes one Republican to say no. In most cases, it's going to be Mitch McConnell. So here's what's going to happen. Democrats plan to use all these different options until they figure out which one is going to work. Here's the problem. Everything is going to fail. And when everything fails, which is expected to, then they're going to have to use the budget reconciliation. They don't want to do this. Democrats don't want to do this, number one, because they only have one. If they had 2 different reconciliation bills, they would do this. They don't. They used one on the American Rescue Plan to pass a partisan bill for $1.9 trillion. Remember, no Republican voted on that. And Republicans came out and they told the American people, hey, we gave you this. No Republicans voted. It was all us. Well, Republicans remembered that, and they're not going to pass and help them go and do that again. Well, here's what we know. Right now, moderates and progressives are struggling to figure out what's the best thing to put into this $3.5 trillion bill. How expensive should the bill be? When should we get it passed? Well, here's what I can tell you. according to multiple reports, right now, a vote for the Senate, the Senate to vote on this bill to pretty much keep the government funded, to obviously increase the debt ceiling, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because they need Republican votes. And right now they're just trying to make, or pretty much put Republicans on record of saying, we're not going to pass government funding, or we're not going to increase the debt limit. Now tomorrow, or actually it might be today, according to multiple reports, we are going to see the Senate try to pass an additional bill to work on government funding. I think that's today. Okay, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's today. So as I know more on that, I promise I will fill you in on that update. That will probably come tomorrow morning. Hopefully they pass this. If they pass it today, that will give the House time to vote on it tomorrow. If the House votes on it and it passes tomorrow, which government funding, as long as it's excluding the debt ceiling suspension or increase, as long as that's not part of it, it will pass according to multiple GOP members. So if that passes, President Biden will have more than enough time to sign it tomorrow so the government actually stays funded. Again, it all comes down to tomorrow. So we'll see what happens there. But here's what I can tell you. The reason why Democrats don't want to use the budget reconciliation bill, which is pretty much their only option, their one option at this time, to guarantee it gets done, here's the problem. The budget reconciliation bill, it's going to take a little while. It would take a little bit of while, it would be very risky. According to Senator Schumer, he says it would be very risky and it would lead to a default. And he says that because, or what we know right now is not him that says it, but according to experts, they're saying because lawmakers spent all of August on recess when they should have been tackling this issue, now they do not have enough time to get this to pass. Senator Schumer said it would be too risky and it would lead to a default. Here's the reason why. It takes a while. Not only does it take a while, but what we know is Democrats want to pass the $3.5 trillion bill, which is going to have to use a budget reconciliation, okay, that reconciliation card, and they have to pass the debt increase, which is going to require a reconciliation card as well. If they both require it, the only way to do it is to put them together. Here's the problem. Democrats can't agree on what to put in the $3.5 trillion bill. They're still struggling on this. And today they learned that the new provisions, the new idea behind bringing in immigration reform into the bill, that was squashed by the Senate parliamentarian as well. So now they're back to the drawing board they go. That's a big issue. The problem that they have is that they cannot put these two bills together. The debt limit increase or suspension and the $3.5 trillion bill, because according to Nancy Pelosi, the bill has to be done by tomorrow. It has to be done by tomorrow. It cannot be done by tomorrow. They can't just even get one of them done, let alone put them together and make it work. So, according to some reports, if we are to see a reconciliation bill, okay, that would actually keep the government, well, not really keep the government funded, but give the government more opportunity to print money, to raise that debt ceiling. In order to do that, it would probably take an additional 3 to 4 weeks. Just to give you an idea, 3 weeks from, let's say tomorrow, 3 weeks from tomorrow would be October 21st. That would be about 3 days after we run out of money. 4 weeks would be October 28th. That would be 10 days after we run out of money. That's the reason why, according to all reports, we do not have enough time. But they would have to start working on that now. Okay, now that you're caught up there, here's one of the things you need to understand. Okay, if we cannot get a deal on this $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill, the $1.2 trillion bill will not pass tomorrow. Here's the problem, and I just said this. That bill will not be done by tomorrow. So progressives are saying they will not vote on the $1.2 trillion bill. They're going to pretty much hold this hostage. Today, Senator Joe Manchin, he had a lot to say today. Let's just break down what he said. Today, Senator Joe Manchin said that there is no way to get a $3.5 trillion infrastructure deal done before the House votes on the bill, the $1.2 trillion bill, tomorrow. He says there are still far too many issues to overcome, and the deadline to pass the bill is actually now, referring to the $1.2 trillion bill, not the $3.5 trillion bill. He could care less about that right now. That he wants to pass sometime in 2022. So he's not even worried about that. He also added, there's actually no deadline for the $3.5 trillion bill because there's nothing in there that's pressing. So extending the child tax credit payments isn't really pressing. Providing affordable housing, affordable child care, free community college, providing vision, dental, and hearing to people on Medicare, that's not pressing? I don't know. I think my idea of pressing and his idea are obviously much different. Now, what Senator Joe Manchin wants to happen with the $1.2 trillion bill is just to see it pass first. Then he says, and I quote, what's possible is to sit down and have good, frank negotiations with senators. Let's break that down. What's possible is to sit down and have good, frank negotiations with senators. His idea is pass the $1.2 trillion bill, which again isn't really needed. The whole bill essentially is not needed. I think the transportation section of that bill is needed because we run out of funding there. That has to be renewed by tomorrow as well. That's the reason why there is a deadline on that. But outside of that, all that stuff can wait. They could do a standalone bill for the transportation part. Everything else can simply wait. But here's the issue. He says we can sit down and have good, frank negotiations. But senators aren't willing to do that. They all have their different ideas, their different agendas, and that's why we are stuck. But here's the problem. Progressives are not going to let this happen. They're not going to let a $1.2 trillion bill pass before the $3.5 trillion bill or whatever trillion-dollar bill they come up with, that actually passes, or they have a hard framework for that. That is essentially the goal. Now, what I can tell you is that progressives are going to hold this hostage. Moderates are holding their bill hostage. But according to all Democrats or all reports from Democrats, they understand that this $3.5 trillion bill has to be scaled down. So essentially, that is what's happening today. We don't have many reports on what's going to be pulled out or how this is going to be limited, but I can tell you it will be limited in some way. Today, AOC, she said, some folks reneged on their agreement, and that's where I think we have an issue here of trust. She also says, let's stick to the original plan. I will support Manchin's priorities, he can support my priorities, and we can all win. And working families can get childcare, healthcare, climate action, and infrastructure investment. And this is the same thing that Bernie Sanders has said before, that we all made these promises. Let's stick to our promises. Let's keep these promises, and let's provide for the American people. But Joe Manchin, he says, and I quote, what I have made clear to the president and Democratic leaders is that spending trillions more on new and expanded government programs when we can't even pay for the essential social programs like Social Security and Medicare is the definition of fiscal insanity. And he goes on to add, in August, I recommended we take a strategic pause to provide time to develop the right policies and to continue to monitor how the pandemic and economic factors are affecting our nation's fiscal situation before we spend more. Now, he wants a strategic pause. That cannot happen. According to Progressive, this cannot happen because if this happens, they will lose the House and the Senate in the upcoming midterm elections. Because trying to pass something during an election year is going to be very difficult. We've already seen how difficult it is, even a year out. And as we get in within 8 months and 6 months of a midterm election, some are saying it will be almost impossible to get anything done. Many people, many lawmakers are not going to want to go on the record of voting for or against certain provisions. So we'll see what happens there. But when asked if Nancy Pelosi is going to put the infrastructure bill on the House floor tomorrow, she said, and I quote, I can't keep a commitment that the Senate has made impossible to do. So I've been saying this for, the past week? Or actually probably this week so far, ever since the Thursday date was set. I don't think that date's going to happen. I don't think a vote's going to happen tomorrow. It could, but I wouldn't expect it. But we will see what happens later on today and tomorrow as well. In other news, experts are now telling home buyers to be careful that prices are going to fall. So if you are planning on buying a home or you're in the process of buying a home, here's what you need to know. Experts are saying that because of interest rates going to go up, the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says that the plan is to stop printing $120 billion a month within the next year, and this will help inflation. This is good. The problem is we will also see interest rates go up because he says interest rates will increase by 1/4 point every few months for the next couple of years. So just understand that as the interest rates go up, we're going to see home prices go down. For every 1% interest rates go up, we see the home prices usually go down about 10%. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, here's what experts are telling us. Experts say that if you're set on buying a home in 2021 or 2022, make sure you're buying it at the right price. Try to get a deal. Now you're probably thinking, how in the world do I get a deal? I can hardly even get an offer accepted. How do I get a better price? You do not get a better price. That's the thing. And that's where many people make the mistake, is they try to offer less. You offer less, you're not going to get a house because there's not enough houses. There's too many buyers, not enough houses selling, or not enough people selling their homes. So here's what you need to do. According to experts, you need to find a home that will have equity after it is fixed up. Not first. It's not going to be a move-in ready home. It could be, but it will need some renovations. Okay, you want to find that deal. It's kind of like a wedge deal where there's a spot in between that you can fix it up. It'll be worth a little bit more. So even if the property values drop, you're still either under or you're right at the amount that you owe on the house. So that would be a good thing. Simply meaning, buy something that's overvalued compared to what it will be valued at when it's fixed up. So let's say the home is selling at $400,000, but you know the home, if it's fixed up, could sell for, it would be worth about $500,000. Well, if you can put, let's say, $30,000 into it, fix it up, then the home drops, let's say $50,000, you're actually in it for $430,000, but yet the property value is now $450,000 after prices drop. So if that's the case, you still got a good deal. So that's what we're seeing at this time. But again, I will keep you updated on everything that's going on. Homes, evictions, stimulus, the infrastructure bill, everything in between. So if you have any questions, please ask your questions down in the comment section below. Just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.